welcome to the African History Classroom. I'm your teacher, African History teacher, Professor Hicks. And sorry for that quick delay, but it was a great opening, but I blew it. So guess what? I'm back because I don't give up. Okay. So again, welcome aboard. And today is October 7th, Tuesday, and I'm back for a brief discussion on the image that you see in front of you, and it's called Abu Simbel. Yes, this is an original shot that I took, I can be proud to say. And today we're going to briefly discuss this image as well as this temple, this great temple. And again, the temple is called Abu Simbel, and it is on the border of Sudan and Egypt, southern border that is. And we're going to try to describe what's in front of you very briefly and come back, if not tonight, tomorrow. So hopefully that you're in attendance. And with that, let's get started. We're going to dive right into it. So this is the temple, as I said, of Abu Simbel. It is one of the most famous, awe-inspiring monuments in ancient Egypt. It was built by Ramesses II to display his power, as you can see, the display of power that this image shows, and his divine connection, and finally for his love of his queen Nefertari. Now, not Nefertiti, Nefertari. You got to get that distinction. Nefertari was his queen, who we believe was born in Nubia, ergo why this particular monument has been designed and built in southern Egypt or on the border of Nubia to honor his great wife. Now, this man was some boy, some playboy, but he was a married playboy. He had over 100 wives. He had fathered over 100 sons and about 60 daughters. He lived to a ripe old age of like 90 years old, which is rare for these pharaohs because most of them, because of because they didn't have a lot of advances in the physical medicine to make them live longer as we do today, because the only reason why we live as long as we do today is because of wonder drugs. Those drugs that when you go to the hospital sick, they make you better. Although Egypt was known for its medicine, some of these drugs were not developed at the time. As such, many of the pharaohs did not live as long as this great pharaoh here, Ramesses II. So this is his temple. Those four objects, or those four seated objects you see there, are all pictures or images of him. Now, right off, that should tell you something about this pharaoh's particular self, what he felt about himself. So again, let's dive right in. I don't want to get too much, because I can go on and start elaborating where I don't need to. So again, I'm going to repeat. Abu Simbel is one of the most famous, awe-inspiring monuments of ancient Egypt, built by Ramesses II. And again, to display his divine power and his connection to his great queen, who he really loved of all of them, Nefertari. This is located in southern Egypt, near the modern border with Sudan and ancient Nubia. This is carved directly into the sandstone cliffs above the Nile. This image that you're watching was carved from rock. Just think about that a minute. Carved from rock. It was built between 1264 and 1244 BCE, before the current era, and known as the New Kingdom. The 19th dynasty was the beginning of the New Kingdom. So you had the Old, Middle, and New Kingdom. There are two temples here. The Great Temple of Ramesses II, these four colossal seated statues of Ramesses II, each about 20 meters or 66 feet tall, dominated the facade and also overlooked the Nile River. Each colossus shows Ramesses wearing the double crown on top of the head. Those are the double crowns. And those double crowns represent dominance over Lower and Upper Egypt. The entrance leads into a large hall with 8 Osiris statues, meaning Ramesses as the god Osiris in the afterlife. Remember, Osiris is the god for the afterlife. These walls are covered with reliefs, including his great battle of Kadesh near Syria, which he became very famous for. He describes it everywhere. Everywhere I went in Egypt, you had this battle described and etched into the stones. And this battle, it shows Ramesses smiting his enemies and riding his wonderful chariot. Now, when he was something about Ramesses here, he had a dog that he loved and a lion that went to war with him, and they were in this depiction as you go through Egypt of the Battle of Kadesh. The religious scenes showing Ramesses with god Amun Ra. Amun Ra. And we'll talk about that later. And also Ra Harakati and Ptah. These are all gods that we'll talk about another time that he was honoring by his temple. Now here's something that you probably seen in Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you remember the scene where he's forget his name, he's putting a piece of stick in a hole, and he's in a temple. He just got into the temple. He falls down into this great place, and then he lines up this rod, I should say, with a hole in it, and the rod will now shine directly on an object inside this temple. Well, this is where they got this from. This is where the movie producers got this from, because this temple, twice a year, the rising sun illuminates the inner sanctuary, lighting up the statues of Amun Ra and Ra Harakati and Ramesses. Remember, and Ramesses. All right. There's a smaller temple of Nefertari. Remember, his king, and Hathor. Hathor is the god you ever looking at the images who have cow ears, okay? That was one of the neters, or should I say deities, that was worshipped during this time. The facade shows 6 colossal statues. So let's take a moment and look at them. You see 4 of Ramesses. Each one of these are an image of Ramesses. Then you see 2 of Nefertari. Now, Nefertari would be to the right of the statue of Ramesses, the one that you see sitting on your right. To his right leg is his wonderful wife, Nefertari. You also see her again on the other statue that's to his left, and down by his leg, you'll see a woman standing there. That's a picture of his wife, or should I say an image or a statue of his wife. 4 of Ramesses and 2 of Nefertari. And this is unusual because queens rarely were depicted in equal scale with kings. Now, this is something that has to have to be a little sensitive in describing. Most pharaohs honored their wives, sometimes exalted them next to them, and made them appear in different iconographies as equal to them. No, not all of them held them equal, but many of them did. So unlike what we see today, particularly in many of the religious images where women are pushed to the back, that wasn't so in Egypt. Women held just as much power in certain times and periods in Egypt as the men. We can find an example in Hatshepsut, all right, who was a queen who wore the beard. I'm sure many of you have heard about that. So the depiction of Nefertari making offerings to Hathor, let's move past that. So I think I'm going to hold it right there because there's a lot more here to go. But I need you to take a moment and scan these images. Look at the images next to the feet of Ramesses. Look at how his feet are even. That tells us a lot about this image. In Egypt, when you see the feet together as you see today, as you see in this image, that means that the pharaoh at the time is not living or is being held in some mortuary image. When you see some of the pharaohs who are standing with 1 foot forward, that indicates that the pharaoh was alive when this image was, or this statue was being erected. So that's just a little tidbit that you keep in your mind. So when you see many of the pharaohs etched in stone or built in stone, you see this 1 foot forward. It has a lot more meaning than I'm giving you, but just want to give you a little tidbit of that so you'll know. Okay, so again, I've been on about 10 minutes. I want you to again take a look at this image, and this is Abu Simbel. This is me taking that picture, and this is one of the most awe-inspiring, one of the most walking up to this temple. I hate to keep using the word, but it really leaves you in awe. All right, so continue to check the image out. It's on my channel. I'm going to continue to ask you to subscribe. They are going up a bit. I'm watching some movement happen, so please continue to do so. And with that said, I'm going to say ashe to you, family, and I'll see you